taboo.
Hey everybody, you're very welcome to another episode of Revenue Hacks with me, Khristina, Quigley, in association with WHTT. Super excited about today's show. First of all, we've got another new face joining us, which I'm very delighted about. Silvia runs WHTT, the Italian chapter, not just a revenue person, and she'll get into what she does in a second. And today's show, we've got Brendan May from HotelResBot, and we're going to be chatting about the future of AI in hotels, how AI can help you and your hotels, and it's not to be seen as a replacement of staff. That's one thing we have to keep saying every week, I feel, is that technology is not there to replace staff. It's only to enhance the hotel, enhance the guest journey, and enhance your staff's journey and your hotel's journey in regards to business. So let's just do a quick around the room. As you all know, I'm Group Revenue Marketing and Ecom Manager for JMK Group, UK and I Hospitality Group. We've got hotels across the country. And we'll go to Calvin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Calvin Tilokee. I am the CEO of Revpar Media. You may know me better as Revparblums on Instagram.
Sylvia.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Silvia Cantarella. I'm in revenue management for 16 years, 13 years in chain since then independent for 3 years, and I'm the founder of Revenue Acrobats and super fan of revenue hacks.
Well, it's great to have you on screen because you are very good in Italy. I did tune in yesterday again to hear you. It's one of these things, I get excited listening to you. Sometimes I can't understand everything, but I still kind of get the gist of it. And then last but not least, Brendan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on. So I'm Brendan. I'm originally from Canada, but I've been now here in Germany about 20 years. And my background has been helping hotels implementing technology. I've been helping many years with distribution systems, then revenue management. And now, since the past couple of years, I've been focusing on helping hotels with artificial intelligence.
Super. It's going to be a great conversation today for sure. Don't forget that obviously we're going to be picking a winner for a Revenue Hacks mug so that you can become part of the Revenue Hacks squad. We are the no-nonsense crew when it comes to hospitality, technology, revenue, marketing, optimization, you name it, that's it. And I'm not picking the winner today. It is Calvin. So get your questions in, get engaged with our team. We can't wait to start the floor. Oh, well, you are going to be picking it. So I can tell you, I'm sure you are going to be super fussy for sure. Remember as well, you guys can keep up to date with all of us on LinkedIn and on Instagram. We do have an Instagram handle. It's revenue_hacks. And you can also see what we all do. Hey, Julie, really nice to see you. Julie is really famous. She's actually been with the show a lot as well. We're happy to have her part of the team. And hey, Tony, you don't realize who Tony is. Tony actually also is really cool. And Kat, I can see all these names popping in. Oh my God. Ronnie Cherian, who actually is one of the GMs in JMK. Hey, Ronnie, how are you? So let's kick off this because I'm going to keep saying hello to everybody, right? So, Brendan, tell us. AI has really taken over the last year, in particular because of the pandemic. Do you think AI has been pushed a lot more to hotels' focal point because of the pandemic? Because we've seen it being quite prominent in technology and in hotels in China and Asia for quite some time.
Yeah, so I think there definitely has been a different perspective on AI in the last 12 or more months. It was kind of really clear to me when some people that I'd been speaking to, couple of months before COVID happened said, oh, this is cool what you're doing, but I'm not really sure if I'm ready for AI and so on. And a number of those people were kind of the first people to call us in March and April of 2020, when everything hit the fan and people were starting to look for new ways to find basically the new normal. So I do think that certainly the pressures that hotels have been put under in the last 12 months and more have pushed people more to be open to think about reinventing what they're doing. And one of those key things that people are looking at is obviously artificial intelligence. I always kind of find it funny because AI is one of those things that in marketing we seem to, say, oh, AI, this big thing over there, and it seems kind of scary and big. But then when we actually sit down and look at what we do on a regular basis, well, actually, a lot of our life is already driven by AI, or at least supported by AI. Even what we watch in the evening, if it were Netflix or even Amazon Prime, and we're trying to decide what to watch, well, actually, there's an algorithm behind there helping us make that choice. So I think actually AI is much more prevalent than we already thought in our normal lives, because when it's done well, it's actually in the background and you don't notice it that often.
So I know Silvia has loads of questions
I
today,
am not
and Silvia is part of the crew. So Silvia, you are not allowed to win a mug. Simple.
I'm here on the Wonder Mug. I don't know another way to say it. Okay, so I've got a lot of questions actually, and you said it well, Brandon, and AI is already part of our lives, and you put the example of Netflix, which is an extremely good example. We don't know that it's there, but it's actually there. So this is also linked to personalization, because Netflix also is showing up results based on what are our behaviors and our characteristics. So the same can be done in hospitality as well, really to bring personalization to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge believer in the concept of the paradox of choice. So if you're not familiar with that, I recommend everyone Google paradox of choice TED Talk and spend, after this call, of course, and spend 20 minutes understanding this problem. But I'll give you a brief summary here. And the issue is that we tend to think as humans often. If I give my customers a lot of choice, then they'll be able to find the perfect product for themselves. But this is proven that it's the wrong way to think about it, because what we need to do is actually reduce the options for people so that it's easier to make a choice. And we get into this situation of analysis paralysis if there are too many options, and oftentimes we then don't even make a choice. So one of the great opportunities of artificial intelligence is basically a recommendation engine for people trying to decide what product they're going to buy. So imagine you go to a website, and I don't want to knock on websites, but we've been doing hotel booking engines for 20 years and there are only a couple of key examples, maybe like Avio, that are trying to really change this world and use AI to make recommendations to people. Because typically you type in your arrival date and your departure date, and you see, 5 different room types and potentially 3 different rate types. That's already 15 different products. And we know that people are not able to make that choice very well. So, I mean, one of the things that we've done on our side with our product on Hera is we have a recommendation engine built in, because we know that when we're sending emails or offers via email, there's no way that we can fit 15 different room and rate type concatenations into one email. It's got to be 2, 3, or 4 different offers, for example. But picking which of those offers, well, right now we use a combination of human and AI to do it, but certainly this future of being able to learn what is the right offer to send to someone. And you can imagine going out and checking even LinkedIn, what are they doing in social media? You can check the CRM to see what if they booked historically, and then come up with, based on what they've asked for, and then come up with the perfect offer for that person. So I really believe that personalization is going to change the entire guest journey of that selection massively.
Brendan, you made a really interesting point there about having too many choices. And, being that we're using the Netflix analogy, literally last night we were trying to find something to watch, and we're going through all the choices and everything. It was just too many choices. You know what? Let's just watch Peaky Blinders again. So we just started watching that over. But earlier in the conversation, you mentioned, properties being hesitant. What would you say is the number one hesitation about implementing a system like yours?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that we still have in the hotel tech industry is actually integration. So it's actually not an AI problem. It's an integration problem that we still have in the industry. I mean, I started or wrote a business plan for and took 25 million for a snapshot to try to resolve that issue. And there are a number of other organizations out there like Impala and so on that are trying to make and Happy Hotel API that are trying to make integrations much easier. But this is actually still the number one reason why hoteliers, and to a certain extent rightfully so, are a little cautious with new technology because there's always an integration aspect. But if we get into specific things for AI, I think there's a fear out there, and a very strong fear out there, where we say, hospitality is a human-to-human thing, and there's a huge fear of putting AI between the guest and the experience. And this is one of the reasons why we have a slightly different perspective of this. Yes, you can actually have AI that helps the guest get things done, and that's a great use case for AI as well. But you can also have AI that helps the hotel people get their job done. And this is, in particular, we have a lot of tasks in the hospitality industry that, let's be honest, people didn't join the hospitality industry to, look at a PMS and type in, different information into the PMS. Most of them got into the hospitality industry because of that personal touch, the person-to-person draw of it. And so I believe that one of the big changes that AI can help us achieve is let the people do their job and be hosts rather than, slaves to the machine of typing in the right data. Let AI do the boring stuff.
I think that's really, yeah, exactly. And it's so true. We should be getting AI to do these things. Now, to be honest with you, I would be a little bit cautious in that because, again, the likes of reservation checks and everything like that, I still believe people have that human power to go into the OTAs and tick off and make sure it's done. I think it's just like old school part of me, but I do think AI is the way of the future. I think it simplifies life. It also cuts down the amount of man hours that you need at a reception in regards to, being able to train and develop your team into something more lucrative. And also, the more you educate them on AI and technology and how systems work, the less reliant you are on constantly calling support teams to be able to fix it. And you also have a satisfaction with your staff as well because they're learning new things on the job, and that allows them to grow as well so that eventually they can grow within your company. Or, unfortunately, sometimes people do have to leave companies to be able to grow. We've had a really good question because a lot of people, again, Brendan is agreeing with us. We've been saying this for a long time. APIs have to be open. There's a lot of Jurassic systems that are out there. We're not naming them. They already know who they are, that need to change how they operate and become a lot more open and free for people to be able to integrate. I think for me personally, it's a better way of doing things and it makes you a lot more approachable. So people will still use you. If you're creme de la creme of the PMS world, people will always buy into you if you're more open, rather than looking at new sexy technology that may look great on paper, but when they start using it, it's just a paperweight essentially. But Niels is asking, what do you think hotels can do in order to simplify the guest shopping experience without using any technology? Now, for me, that's very, very simple. Consolidation on your rate codes and fix your website. That's what I would say. But what would you guys say across the room? So Silvia, you work as a revenue analyst and revenue manager. You consult with revenue. What would you recommend to people today?
Yeah, basically, I agree with what you said, and also agree 100% with the examples that Brendan did, because when you said, we make also our life much more complicated when a guest lands in our website or booking engine and he finds 13 different room types, so with inside multiple rate codes, that's creating a lot of confusion. And the worst thing that happens is that, the guest gets confused and he buys the cheaper one, or he just leaves the website and go to the competitor. So we really need to streamline our processes and make things easier, putting ourselves on the side of the guest rather than on the side of the hotelier. So sometimes, take off a little bit of our hotelier's hat. That's what I always say, and try to rethink the experience from the side of the guest. So revolutionize the process starting from our mindset.
And Calvin, what would you recommend, especially because, you know, the US is a different dynamic to how people see things. And, you know, the US is it's very tailored towards people who use their cards, use Amex, who are part of a rewards team. So they already know what they're looking for. They're looking for the rewards. What would you recommend to people?
Right. I mean, I don't really have too much different to say from what you guys have said. I think it's really about simplifying. You know, it's about not having too many offers. And I think it's really analyzing your offers that are the most popular. Where are people clicking on your website? What are they looking for? And then highlighting those top 3 or 4 packages, offers that are popular. I've worked at some resorts, you know, we had a lot of things to offer, you know, water park, skiing, you name it. And you know, if we put everything up there at the same time, you could easily have 10, 12 different offers. You know, we really had to focus on seasonality. What's popular now? What are we trying to promote now? Where are people going on the website? What are they looking for? You know, looking at your monthly stats week by week as well, reservations. What are people booking? Where they navigating? And of course, what are you trying to promote? You know, if you have certain things, but I would say narrow that down to a top 5 at most, and have those placed on your website properly. You know, you'd be surprised. You guys may not be surprised, but I think people out there you'd be surprised how many websites you have. You know, you have an old Valentine's Day package, you know, still up there. It's still right at the top of your website. Why? No, but you don't even want anybody to book that, because hopefully by now you're out of champagne, right? You don't want to put anybody booking that package now. So that's got to be moved, and staying on top of those type of things.
I think what's really interesting is that people still haven't adopted the OTA approach. That's the way I look at it, right? Your rates should be put up there like an OTA. You know, it should be the cheapest rate possible with the most restrictions, the second cheapest with a little bit more restriction, and then obviously your bar rate. You know, I see hotels that haven't done that yet, and I see rates all over the place. I think everything should be very clear, very uniform, and just very simple, so that when the customer is looking for something, like advanced purchase, by the way, is gone. No one's paying for advanced purchase right now. If you were saying to me you get lots of advanced purchase, I will absolutely shake your hand, give you a bottle of champagne, and say you need to tell the whole world your secret. You know, because that's how it is. The only one that's getting advanced purchase at the moment is the big OTAs, because they're manipulating data and they're actually making the guest pay in advance. We do have some really, really interesting questions. One of them I absolutely love, and I don't know if Silvia has one of these questions in her little book as well, but Abe has asked, how do you convince guests that the data collected in AI will be protected? Because again, there's huge privacy concerns, and this is dedicated to Brendan. You know, we are massive about data protection, huge GDPR in Ireland and actually across the world. So you mentioned data collection and everyone's alarm bells go off.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I think is great about this question is we're not even looking at the problems we have today. So if I look around in continental Europe, we are in the vast majority of hotels I speak to, we are still asking guests to send credit card details as an attachment per email. In UK, it's pretty common to ask them to call afterwards for that. Now, this isn't directly GDPR, although credit cards are a protected piece of information, but this is actually even older stuff. We're talking about PCI DSS, which is like years and years old. Since 2018, it's been absolutely not allowed to ask guests to send credit card details per email, because emails are basically like sending a postcard. So if you're on a Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, whatever, that can be actually stolen quite easily. So we have a lot of work to do actually to improve the safety of what we're doing in terms of our data in our current processes today. So artificial intelligence, especially coming out of Europe, is, you know, you're guaranteed to have it GDPR compliant. It hasn't been easy, I can tell you, as a provider, figuring out how to follow all of the GDPR rules at the same time as being able to provide the service. Nevertheless, the good news, at least for us, for example, and in many cases in terms of AI, it's a fairly quick opt-in, because of course you are, as a hotel, allowed to process data if someone sends you an email. So then you're allowed to respond to them. In our particular case, we're not proactively marketing or sending any messages to people that send emails, so that a lot of the, let's say, the teeth of the GDPR rules are not applicable. But then on the learning part, there is a certain amount of, let's say, ways in which we had to be creative in order to be able to have the system automatically learn out of the process without contravening any of those GDPR rules, so that your data is stored somewhere externally. So it has been, let's say, it put a significant additional amount of effort on us doing that. But one of the great things on our world is we're using, for example, an open source stack that can actually be implemented locally or in the cloud. So I happen to be actually a big believer that cloud can be much safer than a local instance. I've walked into server rooms in hotels in a number of occasions, but certainly this whole topic of making sure that data is secure is really, really important. But what I find really ironic about it is we have oftentimes the first time we start to implement AI, at least in my experience, is the first time people start looking at their existing processes and realize they have a lot of problems to fix in the existing processes, and actually going through that process of implementing tools can help them identify and stop those challenges.
I think that's really interesting, because server rooms are like my heaven. That's where I used to go to hide out and learn a lot more about tech. And I love even the thoughts of going into like a server cloud. It's amazing. We do have a question from Anis Bianchi. I actually met him this week. He's such a lovely guy. He's actually going into revenue, which is super cool. And he's wondering about, hospitality is all about human interaction. It's all about that experience. Anis actually is a former F&B side of things, so he is really customer centric. And his question is, don't you think that AI will depersonalize this in relation to obviously customers? So, I think, and please, Brendan, clarify with us, if your system or even AI in general learns from what the behavior is behind it, because from experience, the tool is only as good as what you put into it. So if you weren't customer centric, then your tool is going to be customer centric, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the way that I think about it is we've got to figure out what should the humans do and what should the AI do. And AI is great anytime we have a lot of data. As soon as we have data, we can do a lot with it. The reason why AI will never replace hotel staff or hoteliers completely, they will only ever augment it, is because a lot of things that are happening in hotels are unique one-off events. So the idea behind AI in hotels is not to necessarily replace that customer experience, but to actually enable the staff to do that customer experience better. Now, that could be a tool like ours that is actually, like, we position our system as an assistant for the reservation agent. So it is doing the subtasks of the reservation process, like reading the email and checking the availability rates and inventory, so that the agent doesn't have to. When they open up that email, they just see the available offers already sitting in the email for them. They can just say, okay, I want to click this one, and this one. And then it's their job to customize the message to get that personal touch in there. So it's not that the AI is taking over the personal connection. It's actually supporting the agent so that they have the time to write that personal connection, rather than going to Opera, searching, copying, pasting, adding cancellation policies, and all this boring stuff that really doesn't need to be done by a human. So it's actually freeing the person up to provide that personal service. But one little quick comment as well is I was speaking to a hotel chain, luxury hotel chain in Dubai, and they shared this brief story with me. They said for 10 years, we were not implementing the #1 request from our guests. And this #1 request was, we want a coffee machine in the room. And their reason for this was because we're a 5-star luxury hotel chain. Of course, you can't have a coffee machine in the room. You've got to provide a perfect coffee specialty to the door of the guest when they've ordered it. And I get that. Sometimes I want a perfect cappuccino. But sometimes, actually, I don't want to speak to a human. I want to press a button and get a coffee before I see anyone else in the morning. So it depends on the need. So it really, it's about finding ways to use the tools to improve the guest experience. But it doesn't mean that you don't offer a perfect cappuccino anymore.
Super true, Brendan. And I have a little story here too. I actually, in one of my past experiences, worked for a hotel chain, and I had a reservation team made of 12 people. And we had like lots of emails coming through. And when we left the office in the evening with 200, 300 emails left to be followed up, that was already a good result. So you can imagine how much of manual work we were doing. And that's because we didn't have any artificial intelligence, any technology supporting and eliminating these manual tasks. So that's exactly where artificial intelligence has to come into place, to just eliminate non-value-add activities, repetitive tasks, and free our time to give that extra attention to the guest, that attention, guest caring experience that really leaves a mark and makes a difference of our hotel compared to the competition. That's the whole point about technology, and I think we all agree about that. So my next question about this, I told you I had lots, is like, how do you see, what's like the trick? Now you said that the biggest issue is connectivity, but from a hotel standpoint, once you have the connectivity in place, so you don't have that issue, what is really the triggering point where the hotel decides whether to embrace technology? Is it really just on the time saving? What is it like from your experience?
So I see two distinct strategies that are happening right now, and one is unfortunately the situation of I have few staff because I've had to furlough lots of people and so on, and I'm concerned about ramping back up fast. So we saw the experience in Dubai where already in Christmas they were at 95% of their 2019 occupancy, and these waves of bookings that are coming and being able to deal with that scalability and getting that in place, this is one of the big drivers. So yes, it has to do with being able to do more with less costs. That's definitely one of the drivers that I do see. But the other big driver that I see is people who have, and this is potentially even bigger, but is organizations that have honestly been pissed off at how badly they're handling emails since 25, 30 years. And we all know who we are. And I did, when I first started the concept of Hera to test whether it would work, I actually wrote to 50 different hotels and did a booking request just to see what would happen. And something like over half of the answers I got back were in this format. Yes, we have a room, it's 80 euros. Okay, seriously? But I mean, that's all the people had time for. They didn't sell it to me. We spent all this time on the website, which is, around 10% of our business, but we don't spend as much time on the guest journey via email because we think, those are our regular guests anyway. Those are the ones that are writing to us, so they'll come back anyway. But we're not honoring the fact that they're not making us pay 20% commission. They're coming directly to us. And how do we treat them? We make them wait for sometimes 24 hours to get the answer. When they get the answer, it's incomplete and it's not branded. It doesn't share the emotion. It doesn't help them upsell. And so this is actually a big driver of why people are focusing on this channel, saying, actually, we need to double down on direct business because these are the guests that are happiest with us and come back again. So happily, it's strongly on the improving the guest journey side.
Totally agree. Also, one thing that really drives me crazy is that the fact that, people answer with the cheapest rate and the lower room type, because that's the most mechanical thing that you do to make it quicker. But you need to know that your guest already knows what's your rate and your room availability for that specific date. We are in the 2.0 era, so they know everything about your hotel. And linking to that, so did you see a sort of development, an acceleration occurring during this pandemic, where people are now more open to embrace technology and change? Because from my experience in my country here, I'm seeing a lot of hoteliers completely switching their mind and taking this time, where there's not so much to do, unfortunately, to invest on technology in order to improve on their processes while the rebound will come. Is it something that you are experiencing too?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's even interesting about it is in many cases it's not even investing, because what they're doing is they're in many cases able to negotiate transactional type models where there's no upfront investment. In fact, maybe over the long term it's a little more expensive than if you had a SaaS model at the beginning, but it's right now adjusting the technology cost to the volume that the hotels are experiencing. So often it's not even this sort of evil word of investing. It's actually just, taking a small cut as a commission or a transaction fee, which we're all used to in the industry. But yeah, I mean, it was the joke in about a year ago that came out, and I still laugh about it because it's so true. What put forth your digital strategy? Was it your CEO? Was it your CTO? Or was it COVID-19? And in a lot of cases, it's COVID-19. But this happens with any big crisis, but anytime we get a moment to basically, and normally we don't get this chance to kind of stop, pause, not have to deal with so much of our day-to-day stuff, and then we can actually finally think strategically. And these are the hoteliers that either have a vision of how hospitality should look in the future, or they are strategic and they're looking at where they want to get to. The laggards are still the laggards, and they're not moving really yet. They will be the ones to follow. But those that have a vision of how hospitality in the future is going to look like, they are moving and they are implementing. And I believe that those are the ones that are going to win in the future, because the truth is, with automation, they're going to have more attractive jobs, they're going to have better performance, and more profitability when the business comes back. So those that use this time are putting themselves up to be in a great position in the future.
I love how Brendan has just mentioned, word for word, practically everything that Fast has actually said from Judo Analytics on our LinkedIn. He literally said, where AI
great minds think alike,
I feel like the two of you are tapping into each other's brain. His words were, where AI should have a big impact is something to do with productivity optimization and workforce planning, especially where you're in these volatile times where profitability is so crucial. There you go. So it's not just a guest side, but it's also operations as well. And it's so true. The more you can train AI into thinking like you and feeling like you, the easier it is for your teams to be able to trust a system like this. You should always think of it, as I just said in a message there to someone, is that AI is an extension of your team. It's only going to make things better. And it's only going to improve, like I said, not just the guest journey at the start of the show, but also your team's journey. Because again, you're moving with the times. And I do think that that's, someone's after saying AI will be a fundamental voice for hotel operations. It's true. Look at Asia. Look at the hotels in Asia that are just all automatically ran by robots during COVID-19 to be able to protect the staff that are there. That's something cool. A Loft has a robot as well that's able to do deliveries, that's able to be in-house and do all these things. It's only an extension of their team. It's part of the customer journey, part of the service. It's not to be replacing your team, for sure. You have to keep saying that for sure.
Up a level. Yeah, your team moves up a level and starts to supervise the AI that is doing some of the tasks for them. So it's still the human in control. And I think that's the key thing. And to go back to the beginning, that's what people are afraid of, is kind of losing the control, because we don't know what the AI is going to do. And I understand that. But that's the point, that the human staff in the hotel are the ones that are still responsible for this process, they're just not the ones that actually have to actively do it. They only have to supervise some of them. You know, things like other, you know, non-value added tasks, notifications from partners, booking notifications. Does a guest really get any value that a human had to sit somewhere, read that notification from your non-interfaced tour operator partner and type it into your PMS? I don't think that a guest cares how their reservation got into your system.
Well, I think
but
what's
your
really funny
agent does. Your agent does.
Well, I think what's really funny is you did mention a while ago that, you know, sometimes the system can come back AI, unless you actually train it and you teach it. It can just say the room is €80. This is the room. Staff still do that. Email teams still do that, you know, and that's one thing I've found through the years. We all know this when you work in hotels, you're selling a room to a person. So you're not just selling the experience, but the room, you're also selling everything together as a package. And you should be tailoring your emails to suit that, not just one generic email. The price is X. If you don't want to pay it, there's a hotel next door. Because now more than ever, we're looking for everyone's business. Clara Torme has asked a few questions. So she says, so AI is great to do more automatic tasks of reservation agents, such as searching for availability and rates. Would AI go as far as offering relevant upgrades to potential customers? Which I know that can happen. There's a lot of different tools out there that actually does email guests that are already in your system for future bookings, or even, you know, offer upgrades, and also recognize if the customer has stayed in the property before, if they're coming back, so it can offer them something different and get them to book direct. Brendan.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes and yes. On the first one, that's not something that we do, but as you said, Khristina, there are a number of companies out there that do this upselling, and yes, they are leveraging AI in the background to make the best guess of what upsell should be sent to that person. I mean, obviously that, you know, the sending of the email is something nice, but it's actually that guessing of, out of all of these things that we could be upselling, what is the thing that I should be sending to this person? And that's a, you know, a job for AI for sure. Similarly on you know, our side, on the Hera side, yes, you know, AI, or in this particular case, this is a perfect machine learning task for an artificial intelligence system to figure out what is the right product I need to offer to this person based on data in the CRM, based on publicly available data via LinkedIn or other platforms. And this is, you know, this is back to that recommendation engine of Netflix, but actually even better. So you can even reduce it down to fewer things. So this will be one of the big things that I believe AI will be handling, is that personalization aspect, which is kind of ironic because we're always afraid of personalization as being, you know, the bots taking that over. So.
But is there such thing as too much personalization? Because we touched on this last week or the week before. I had a conversation. I'm actually taking part in the webinar next week, and the system that I'm actually kind of obviously working with, they actually do a full deep dive on you. So, you know, it really tailors everything to you. It checks your social media, it checks everything that you post online. And I remember Calvin and I kind of having this conversation last week on the call, you know, is there ever too much involvement in social media, following handles, following people's steps, that it becomes voyeurism rather than personalization in a nice and friendly way?
Well, I think it all depends on, you know, what's your optimization goal. And if the optimization goal is to offer the ideal product for that person, then I think it's fundamentally something that's good. I mean, yes, we do have to be cautious in our entire world. I mean, we all live in a search bubble already today. So, you know, Google knows what you like. It's tailoring everything that you're seeing already to what it believes that you personally want to see. Now, there are ways to get out of your search bubble. But to be honest, I don't miss the days when all of the advertisements were not tailored to me, and I was looking at it going, not interesting, not interesting, not interesting. Now, if I'm on YouTube and, you know, the videos come up that are an advertisement, I go, oh yeah, cool, you know, thanks for letting me know about that product, because I've been, you know, wanting to get that for a while. So I see that as a fundamentally positive thing. But I do think that we have to be very strategic about how we position it. So something like, and this combines the personalization with revenue management, which is, one-to-one pricing. This we have to be rather cautious with, because otherwise it will be for us like what happened to Coca-Cola in the 2000s when they built the Coca-Cola machine where the price of the can increased when the temperature increased. People got really pissed off about that. So we have to worry about not pissing off our guests. So the key thing is we have to position it.
You're treading it.
Man, that sounds amazing to me. That's yield management right there.
Totally, but people hated it because it went up. And the point is that if we do personalized pricing, what we have to do is, one, make sure it's about the best product, not about necessarily the price. But if it's on the price, we have to do personalized pricing with, here's the benchmark and here's your personalized discount. So it's all in the way that we position it. But people will get very pissed off if personal price means I pay 20% more just because I'm Brendan, rather than somebody else gets a discount because they've somehow have a characteristic that means they get a special discount. So we do have to be cautious how we implement it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I spent a large portion of my career in reservations and dealing with these type of guest requests, and then obviously moved into revenue management. One thing that's consistent is guests, they don't understand that yield management piece. They don't understand that if you booked the room 3 months ago and at a certain rate, why is it not the same rate on the day of arrival if they want an extra room? Or vice versa, you have guests that, when you thought you were going to have high demand and you've set your rates at a certain level, things didn't pan out. Now your rate's lower on the day of, and that guest who checked in or who booked the same day is paying $100 less than the guy who booked 4 months ago. And then you run into these conversations where now you're making price adjustments, or you're adding, doing value adds, so that way you can kind of justify it. So, but I think the point that was raised is about it being too personalized. And I'll give an example. I tend to like that kind of stuff. I checked into a hotel once where they gave me, when I checked in, there was an amenity with cupcakes with pictures of my dogs on it. And they clearly took that from my social media. I thought it was a nice touch. They put, two of my favorite things together, puppies and pastry, so I was really happy about that. But some people may find that a bit invasive. They may feel uncomfortable, like, oh my God, they're looking at my social media and figuring out what I like. So I think it's really individual. And I guess maybe searching for feedback after those type of amenities and experiences and those type of deliverables may be beneficial to making it better going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to be, you have to be cautious not to go over that line. But if it's, but I think there are a lot of ways where you can basically just use the knowledge to have intelligent defaults. So it's not an in-your-face personalization, but it just makes it feel natural to you. And of course, that's, the happy path that we're aiming for.
I think it's really important now. I'm sure Silvia will agree as well, in particular when it comes to actually having AI around, because we're so used to having it at home. Let's be honest, every home has smart lights, smart bulbs, smart everything. Ring doorbell. You don't even have to go to your doorbell now to see the postman. You don't have to engage. And I think the more we have it in our buildings and our hotels, it actually increases, everyone's satisfaction. And you can actually just say, hey, Google, mine is after lining up there, play music, Yeah.
And I remember when I was younger, going to hotels, and it was always better. The tech was always better than what I had at home. Like they had flat screens before I had a flat screen, and now it seems that that's changed. And actually, in our homes, we have more tech than the hotels, or than an average hotel.
That's a good point. That's very true. Why do you think that is?
Good question. I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe it's just the speed of consumer technology and hotels not keeping up with that. But I honestly don't have an answer for that. I really don't know.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's we touched on it in previous episodes about tech. I think a lot of times it's we're looking for that immediate ROI with everything we do in hotels. You know, if we're buying a new TV for the room, well, how much more can we charge in rate? And it's like, well, no, we're just catching up, right? We're just giving guests what they have at home and making it appealing for them to want to book. That shouldn't mean an extra $30 in ADR.
That's a never-ending story of pricing versus value versus cost, actually, which is still a big issue in the hospitality industry. Sorry, Khristina, you were...
Even down to upgrading pillows. Your owners want to know how much you're going to get in return for it if they invest money into it. And that's just how it goes. Faz did happen. So we're almost out of time, first of all. It's like flown, because we could talk about this all day. It's absolutely crazy. Faz mentioned about attribute pricing. Is that not a form of personalized pricing? Yes, it is. However, not many places actually do attribute pricing just yet. We do know of a company, someone used to represent Revenue Hacks for it, who's working on something like that at the moment. And I do think attribute pricing is definitely going to be the way of the future, tailoring the pricing to what the customer has already been searching for. That involves, though, a lot of cookies, voyeurism, following, and a lot of AI in the background. So before we finish up, does anyone have any extra questions for Brendan?
I have one last one. This one is a fun one. So obviously the acronym for your system is Hera, and Hera was the Greek goddess of marriage and birth.
Very good. I'm impressed.
How does this tie in with your services? Is there a reason behind the name?
Well, I mean, I was trying to come up with a good name around, hotel, email, reservation, and assistant and automation was kind of playing a role in there. And initially we came up with the name HotelResBot, which I think, at least in Germany, was not quite ideal because bots aren't as positive as they maybe are in other places, at least in Germany. And I wanted also a name that, people, that wasn't just a made up one, that people have a, positive historical familiarization with it. So it just came together, I guess, in my brain as Hera. So, but yeah, it was definitely some thought behind it.
Awesome. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, that sounds familiar. So I had to go on Google.
Excellent. Yeah, well done, because it was intentional.
Awesome.
I love it. You now get a gold star. You are now going to, now, Calvin, for that, not only do you get to pick the winner, but next week you are hosting the whole show.
Nice.
So you can ask all the questions next week. So, Calvin, do you have a winner of the Revenue Hacks mug?
I do. This week's winner was very active today, and Vasilis. I won't pronounce your last name because I promise I will butcher it, but you're very active, great questions and comments today, so you win the mug, sir.
I love it. Baz actually was a former guest on Revenue Hacks. Really, really cool. His tech company is great. And we're actually going to have him back in hopefully in April or May, because we do want to kind of touch base on a lot more tech side of things, for sure. I just want to say thanks a million for everyone for joining us today. It's been absolutely super. Brendan, thank you so much for being on with us. Don't forget, we're following up this episode next week. We're all about chatbots. So exciting. And we will have ActSuite with us, which is super. So don't be afraid to join us again next week. Sylvia, thank you so much for joining us. You are coming back to us for sure. Your name now is tied to it, so you're still.
Thank you so much. Waiting for the cut, of course. Waiting for the cut, of course. Thank you.
You need to talk to the producer on that one, okay? I'm not going to name names. I've already been calling her out this week online. Don't forget to follow us on social media. So you can catch Calvin on Revpar Media on Instagram. You can catch Silvia under Silvia on Instagram. You can see me as me, and you can also follow Revenue Hacks, which is revenue_hacks on Instagram. We've got some funny things. We're not just revenue people, marketing people. We actually are normal too. Trust me, we feel your pain about this lockdown. We're fed up with being stuck 5K from home. We get it. So we will see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for joining in. Calvin, thank you so much for getting out of bed again early this morning to be on the show with us.
No problem.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
My